Chapter 50, 5 minutes. The commander's gauntlet snapped open with a hiss, revealing retractable blades along the forearms. Try to entertain me. He moved first, faster than armor should allow, crossing the corridor in a heartbeat to slam into Brenna. The impact drove her back into the wall hard enough to crack stone. Tillo lunged from the side, going for the exposed gap in the commander's knee joint, but the man pivoted, catching the halfling's wrist and flinging him into the floor's dart channels. Nessa darted low, testing her teleport again. Nothing. Still blocked, she called, weaving through the commander's strikes with blades flashing, but unable to land more than shallow cuts. Vereza's fingers itched for magic, but every spark died before it could take shape. We need to break those dampeners now. Finding the weak link, Brenna shook off the impact and glanced up at the runes lining the corridor. The anchors. Look for the cracked ones. Nessa's eyes flicked upward, spotting a faintly flickering glyph near the far end. She threw a dagger, the blade embedding into the stone beside it. A burst of light sputtered from the rune, and the air around them felt lighter. Vereza's hands flared, only for the magic to gutter again. Not enough. We need more down. Tillo scrambled up the wall like a thief scaling a mansion, slamming his dagger into another rune. This time, the hum in the air shifted, and a faint rumble echoed through the corridor. The opening. Magic's leaking back in, Vereza shouted. Sparks danced along her arms, and Brenna's wargoat shimmered into being beside her with a triumphant snort. The commander lunged at Vereza to cut her off, but Brenna intercepted, her shield absorbing the hit with a resounding boom. Not this time, Tillo shouted over the din. We've got maybe a minute before he adjusts. Nessa blinked, and this time, she reappeared behind the commander, her daggers stabbing deep into the weakened joint at his hip. He staggered, and Brenna's wargoat charged, slamming into his chest with bone-rattling force. Fire and thunder. Vereza raised both arms, magic roaring to life. A fire tornado erupted in the tight corridor, forcing the commander back toward the remaining active runes. Above, a massive thundercloud swelled, lightning striking with pinpoint precision at the points Nessa called out. The walls shook. Stone rained down. The dampening runes shattered one after another. For the first time, the commander looked uneasy. The escape. Before they could press the advantage, he slammed a gauntleted fist into the floor. The stone split, and a rush of freezing wind surged upward from below, blinding them with ice crystals. When the gale cleared, he was gone. Only the echo of his voice remained. You've bought time, nothing more. The eye will open. Aftermath. Brenna slammed her warhammer against the wall. Coward. Tillo sheathed his daggers with a frustrated huff. He knows more than he's saying, and now he knows we can break his toys. Vereza exhaled slowly, still riding the high of her returned magic. Then next time, we don't give him an exit. Nessa crouched, picking up a fragment of his broken armor. Her eyes narrowed at the faint glowing symbol etched inside. I've seen this before. Chapter 51. The Mark of the Eye. Nessa turned the jagged fragment over in her hands. The faint symbol etched on the inside wasn't just painted. It was carved, the glowing lines humming with a slow, deliberate pulse. It was the same black circle they'd seen in the burned village, but with something new. 4 smaller symbols around it, each representing a different element. Flame, wind, stone, and tide. Vereza crouched beside her. That's not just a mark. It's a map. Brenna frowned. Map to what? Nessa's voice was low. To the eye. I saw this years ago in Other Company. They said the eye was an ancient convergence point where the forces of the realm all meet. Whoever controls it can bend those forces at will. Tillo leaned against the cracked wall. So, total weather control? Earthquakes? World-ending storms? That sort of bedtime story? Not bedtime stories, Nessa said. Warfare. The 4 winds. Brenna traced the smaller symbols around the circle. 4 elements, 4 winds, 4 storms, the same ones from the old legends. Vereza's eyes narrowed. We've already faced one. And the others, Nessa said grimly, are likely being awakened as we speak. Tillo flipped the armor fragment over in his palm. Then the Ravenhelm Charmer isn't just some warlord with a shiny hat. He's collecting storms like we collect bruises. A name from the past. Nessa's gaze lingered on the symbol. This design, it's the mark of the Aerodyne Hoarder. Brenna's brow furrowed. Never heard of them. You wouldn't have, Nessa replied. They were disbanded centuries ago, at least officially. Their goal was to control the elemental convergences across the realm. But the last time they tried, it ended in, well, let's just say a mountain range exists where a kingdom used to be. Tillo blinked. Oh, fun. A direction to follow. Vireza tapped the glowing flame symbol on the armor shard. This one's burning brighter than the others. If it's a map, that means it's active. Brenna's grip tightened on her hammer. Then we go there next. Nessa stood, sliding the shard into her belt. It'll be in the south. Volcanic lands, easier to hide an elemental convergence in a place already tearing itself apart. Tillo groaned. Great, hot, dry, and probably full of things that want to kill us. Vireza smirked. Just how I like it. The path ahead. They left the fortress behind under a gray sky, the wind carrying a faint warmth from the south, unnatural for this time of year. As they descended into the valley, Nessa glanced back at the fortress one last time. The crack in the wall where the commander had escaped was already being repaired by unseen hands. They're not going to stop building, she said quietly. Vireza didn't look back. Neither are we. Chapter 53, The Ash Road. The southern trail narrowed into a path of cracked black stone, the air thick with the scent of sulfur. Heat shimmered over the horizon, distorting the jagged silhouette of distant volcanoes. With every mile, the ground rumbled more frequently, deep, resonant quakes that seemed to echo through their bones. Tillo squinted ahead. You know, when someone says volcanic lands, I picture lava and dramatic lighting, not whatever this is. A fresh tremor made a line of red light crack open across the path, molten rock bubbling up before cooling in a thin, brittle crust. Brenna stepped forward, her body instantly shifting to the weight of lead. The stone held under her feet as she crossed the fissure. All right, safe enough. Your turn. The first test. Half an hour later, the path climbed into a canyon where vents in the cliff walls hissed jets of scalding steam. They came at unpredictable intervals, but each blast was strong enough to knock a person into the molten river below. Vireza tilted her head, watching the vents. I can stop time for 6 seconds, enough for all of you to cross if we move fast. She raised her hand, and the world froze, steam caught mid-billow, droplets hanging motionless in the air. Go, she barked. Brenna sprinted across with her weight feather light, Tillo's floating swords weaving around him to deflect stray embers. Nessa flickering from one foothold to the next in bursts of electric speed. As the effect ended, the steam roared back into motion behind them, harmless now. The ash hounds. They didn't get far before the ground erupted beneath them. From the cracked earth burst creatures shaped like wolves, their bodies made of cooled volcanic rock, eyes glowing with molten fire. Finally, Vireza muttered. Tillo stepped forward, his floating sword spinning into a deadly formation. I'll keep them busy. 4 blades danced in perfect synchronicity, slashing and parrying in time with his movements. The ash hounds were fast, but the blades moved faster. One fell, then another. Nessa darted through them like a lightning strike, each pass leaving crackling arcs that stunned the beasts long enough for Brenna's wargoat to smash them apart with bone-crushing force. The heat of the land. When the last hound crumbled to dust, the group paused to catch their breath. The heat here was oppressive now, sweat running freely down their faces. Brenna took a long pull from her holy ale, then offered it to the others. Drink. We've got more ground to cover, and it's only going to get hotter. Vireza's gaze was fixed on the horizon. The column of smoke they'd seen from the tavern had grown thicker, and now it pulsed in time with the tremors. That's not just a storm, she said slowly. That's something alive. Chapter 54, The Heart of Fire. By the time they reached the edge of the caldera, the air shimmered so intensely, it warped the very ground. The volcano's mouth yawned wide below them, a lake of molten rock, churning and spitting fountains of flame into the smoke-filled sky. Above the lava, a cyclone of black ash and molten embers spun endlessly, crackling with red lightning, and at the center of it stood the Guardian. It was massive, a humanoid figure of obsidian plates fused with veins of glowing magma. The gaps in its armor bled heat and light, and every movement dripped molten droplets that hissed when they hit the rock. Its face was featureless, save for two burning eyes, each the color of fresh forged steel. Vereza's fingers twitched toward her staff. Oh, this is going to be fun. A perfect counter. The Guardian moved with impossible speed for its size, raising an arm wreathed in molten rock. The ash storm above them pulsed, and suddenly, time seemed to stutter. Vereza tried to trigger her time stop ability, and nothing happened. "It's locking me out," she shouted. Brinna tried to lighten her weight to leap clear of the cracking ground beneath her, but her body remained heavy as stone. "It's suppressing me too." Tillo's floating swords flickered, their movements slowing unnaturally. Nessa attempted her lightning-fast sprint, but arcs of electricity fizzled into the ground as if pulled away by an unseen force. The Guardian's voice rumbled like grinding stone. "Your gifts are mine here. This is my storm." Fighting without powers, with their newest abilities muted, they had to fall back on their older strengths. Brinna bellowed a battle cry and charged, her war goat smashing into the Guardian's knee with enough force to make cracks appear in the obsidian. Tillo darted in low, cutting at the glowing seams in the creature's armor. Nessa blinked around it in rapid, short bursts, just far enough to avoid the storm's suppression, striking and vanishing before it could land a blow. Vereza conjured fire the old-fashioned way, forcing her power into tightly controlled blasts that splashed harmlessly off the outer armor until she noticed the cracks Brinna had made. Finding the weak point, "Hit the fractures," Vereza called. Brinna swung for the same spot, the impact ringing like a bell. Tillo's blade followed, widening the crack until a burst of molten light spilled through. Nessa reappeared at its back, driving both daggers deep into another seam. The Guardian staggered, and for a moment the suppression faltered. Vereza's grin was pure fire. "My turn." 6 seconds, she stopped time. The ash froze mid-spin, lava droplets hung motionless in the air. And the Guardian stood still, with one arm half raised. "Everybody in position," she said calmly. When time resumed, all four struck at once. Brinna with a hammer swing like a thunderclap, Tillo's 4 blades stabbing in perfect unison, Nessa slicing deep into the cracks, and Vereza unleashing a lightning bolt, so precise it split the Guardian's core. The creature roared, magma spilling like blood, before collapsing into the lava below. The storm breaks, the cyclone above unraveled, the red lightning fading. The oppressive heat eased, and the suppression on their powers lifted completely. Brinna exhaled, sweat streaming down her face. 2 storms down. Tillo twirled a blade. 2 to go, and I'm guessing they're not going to get easier. Vereza looked toward the horizon, where a distant, darkened ocean glimmered. "No, next one's water." Nessa wiped her blades clean, a faint smile on her lips. "Good, I could use a swim."